All right, so good morning. It is time for another garden update. So it has been 1 month since my last garden update, and it is starting to get crazy hot. So it's 11 o'clock in the morning where I am, and it is already 89 degrees, that's Fahrenheit. It's about almost 32 C, and I got quite a few weeds going on. Part of that's because I have been a little bit busy with various things, so I have not been pulling my weeds like I should. But I've already got some peppers going on. I planted some loofah sponge here, and it's really not real happy, partly because it's got tons of competition, which again is kind of my fault. But the tomatoes are doing really good. This is the Crnkovic Yugoslav. I mean, look how big they are. They are just ginormous. Now, they do not have a whole lot of, I guess I shouldn't be weeding and filming at the same time. They do not have a whole lot of tomatoes on them just yet. This is a volunteer flax plant. This was probably from some of our goat feeding that we had. So here's another pepper. I've actually just been picking some of the peppers too. So here's some. So we still definitely got some peppers on here. So I haven't really seen a whole lot of tomatoes on there. There's one. There's some little guys. A lot of times they'll put a few up at the bottom. I don't really see any on these, but this is the new bed basically that I redid over this winter, and it's doing pretty good. You can hear the sheep in the background. When they hear my voice, they think I'm coming to feed them, even when I'm not. I've got lots of weed here, but this is, well, not weed, but weeds. This is Chenopodium album. This is also called goosefoot or lamb's quarter. It is actually edible. In fact, you can probably see some little kind of snip points where I clipped this. I actually cooked it up and ate it the other day, and it's pretty good. It's actually at least as good as spinach. So I've got a lot of it, so I'm not actively, massively killing it. So over here, you can see a little bit better at the tomatoes for this group. But right here, I put in some gourds, some edible gourds. They're not doing super great. I just made that spot this year. And we have more weeds. We also have the first red tomatoes. So the very first red tomatoes that we've got right here. This is Matt's Wild Cherry. It is obviously a cherry tomato. It's probably one of my favorite tomatoes. It just produces cherry tomatoes like crazy. They're little tiny, but they're super tasty. I've got a few beans that I threw in over here. This was actually supposed to be an okra bed, but like I said, unfortunately, I got kind of busy and did not weed it very well, so they're not doing so great. But look at my squash right here. The squash are just, and this is actually the small squash bed. So this is a crazy, crazy amount of squash. So this is a squash called Nimba, and it's kind of supposed to be striped. The main problem I had with the squash this year is they produced a lot of female flowers first. So you had a lot of stunted little bitty squash to start off with because they had nothing to pollinate. And so they just made flowers and then didn't really make squash. So this is all zucchini squash. So I've been picking and killing squash bugs pretty well. So they've been looking pretty good so far. I have not seen any squash vine borers yet, although I am trying to keep my eyes peeled. That's why I like to look at the base of the plants to see if there's any frass or anything that looks weird. So I don't see anything there just yet. Here is my Buena Mulata pepper. Got my first hot pepper here. So that's looking pretty good. I've got an extra tomato that doesn't have a cage right here. This is another Crnkovic. There's another zucchini over there, looking pretty good. So right here, these are the okra that I kind of just started to weed around. We have not had rain in a while, and I don't have this area under irrigation, so I need to probably water today. That's part of my plan. All right, so you can see zucchini's really doing great. It's a little wilty, but it hasn't rained in probably a couple weeks. So this is all Black Beauty except for the plant in the center. And the plant in the center is a Zucchetta rampicante, also known as tromboncino. This is a special kind of zucchini. It's not even really the same species. It is it is a species called Cucurbita moschata, which is a little more resistant to squash bugs and squash vine borers and all that kind of stuff, or at least it's supposed to be. And it makes these crazy zucchinis that look like this. So these are called tromboncino, and this is the first time I've gotten this particular variety. The species, well, the variety of this particular species. I've grown this species before to do very well. So it is really going crazy. So all those really wilty leaves in the center, that's it. And then everything around it is Black Beauty. Just a normal zucchini, which is Cucurbita pepo, which unfortunately is very susceptible to squash bugs, squash vine borer, and pretty much everything else. Which is why this is the most work of anything in the garden, because I have to come out here and pick bugs off of them, pick eggs, you name it. It's nice when I'm picking fruit. I don't mind that. But anyway, this is really, really huge. This bed is just nuts as far as the amount of material that's in it, how much it's going. So it's really, really crazy. Right over here, I'm going to have to dig into them to find them here, is I did plant some more okra. Planted okra last year. So this one has actually kind of made it through all the weeds. That one got a little bit swamped, but I'm going to go ahead and work on that and try to get those cleared out. Even though we're under heat advisory, so I don't know if I'm going to do it today or tonight or something. Anyway, this is the second bed. This is my giant squash bed, and it's doing great. I'll probably end up doing some fall stuff, because even as much as I like to keep up with the zucchini, as the growing season goes along, usually the bugs eventually get the better of me, and basically I have to take them out and put something else in. But awesome, awesome squash in this bed this year. This one was my squash bed last year, which did okay. I actually had some self-sown seeds. So I've got some peppers here. This is Olympus, so I think this one's supposed to be a red pepper. I've actually got one over here. It's kind of under this particular prairie plant right now, but it is producing some peppers. I've got one of my new tomato varieties. This is one called Moskvich. So it's supposed to be more cold tolerant. So if you can, it's supposed to be really early too. So you can see I've got a tomato there. Though these I've planted a little bit later. This is actually another Matt's Wild Cherry out here in this red tomato cage. But everything else here is Moskvich. But if you look in there, you see that. Look right there, there's some tomatoes. So there's some pretty good sized tomatoes already setting on the Moskvich. So they're doing really well. They're probably not quite as big of a plant as the Srnkovic, but they seem to be more productive. So they're working for me so far. This bed right here is the westmost bed. It's probably got the most prairie, because we planted this on a tiny little part of our giant reconstructed prairie. It's got a lot of prairie grass that still wants to compete. So we got some peppers here. They're doing pretty well. I think we may have picked a few of them already. But these are another variety of tomato. This one is called Sunset Red Horizon. And you can see this one has definitely already got some green tomatoes on it. So I need to start watching these for tomato hornworm, because that's really the main predator that we deal with. But these are huge. These plants have just gotten really, really big. Look at the size of those tomatoes. Obviously they're not red yet, but gosh darn, they are pretty big. So I am liking these two new varieties that I have tried. This one came from, I think it was Tomato Fest. So I'm kind of keeping my eyes peeled on these guys. And then I've got some more peppers on the outside. I need to get a weed eater for these things. What was that? Oh, it was a cat. Scared the cat. So anyway, more peppers out here. You can see I've got a really long one right here. I think that's the Ruia pepper. So those look pretty good. And then I've got these are a larger African variety of okra, and they're doing okay. They just got some competition too, but they're not really kicking butt just yet, so I may have to add some fertilizer to them. This particular little micro bed has not been well fertilized. But anyway, got one more thing to show you. So last on the list of the main garden bed are the beans. So these are the bean plants. I put up all new twine on the bean towers this year because I don't know what it is about the old twine. It just did not hold up, fell apart. Well, we also had sheep and goats in here and they tended to get tangled up in it and rip it. These are our self-sown purple beans. Then we've got another set of the self-sown purple beans. We're getting some flowers. The problem is it's so hot, they may not be able to actually set fruit. We do have some cooler weather coming up soon, so hopefully that'll happen. This is Marvel of Venice. It's the black seeded form. I've tried it before, but it was the lighter seeded form. This one is called Blomhild. This is another purple seeded bean plant. These over here, these are actually our Hopi yellow beans. And it looks like I need to weed them a little bit. They did not get mulched, unlike everybody else. I just realized that. So that's probably why they're a little bit stunted. It's been so hot and dry that not having mulch is pretty damaging, devastating. So we'll be working on that. One of the things I've run into in the garden is, because we had goats and other things in here, I have self-sown oats. So these are actually what oats look like. They just come up on their own. So this is the garden. It's doing pretty well. There's some things that need work. Unfortunately, the temperatures are not conducive to work. But hopefully we'll get somewhere. Thanks for watching. And I'll let you know when we have a new update, probably in another month. If it's going really well, maybe sooner.